Discover the secrets not just to frugality, but to consistent frugality.
Are you someone who's been frugal in the past but has fallen off the wagon? Maybe you're frugal in certain areas, but in other areas you're not as frugal in those.
Well, you're not alone. Many of us, including Larry and I, have had some problems staying consistent to not only our financial goals, but also as far as frugality is concerned. The core problem is that frugal habits have to be sustainable. That's why in this video, we're going to give you some mindset shifts that you can make. They're super easy to do, and also some tips and strategies on how to stay consistently frugal on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis.
But before we dive in case you don't know us, I'm Larry.
And I'm Hope.
And we're from Under the Median, where it's been a while since we've both been together. How about that? She's back, at least today. We're going to talk about practical frugality.
Now, in case you're not familiar with our channel and you're wondering, what is Larry talking about? 3 weeks ago, I fell. I broke my arm all the way at the top here of my left arm. I broke it into 3 pieces right at the top of that bone. My left hand is my dominant arm, and so it's been really, really challenging, very painful. The doctor just gave me the go-ahead to take off the supportive brace yesterday, so I no longer have to wear the sling unless I feel like my arm gets really tired and I have to. But he says healing is going well. It's going to be 3 full months before the bone heals, and I'll need 6 months of physical therapy. I want to thank you, before we get started on today's topic, for all of your very kind notes and prayers and all of your support.
And your patience with having me take her place. Tip number 1 in regards to this is having a good frugal idea list.
We've mentioned this before in past videos. We think this is a really fun way to approach frugality. Having a list on your refrigerator or someplace else, maybe in your home office, somewhere where you'll see it, of frugal strategies that you think sound interesting that you just haven't tried yet. Part of what happens in frugality is it can get kind of monotonous, right? Let's just admit that right off the bat. If you know what I'm talking about, tell me yes in the comments section. It can get to where you feel like you're doing the same thing day in, day out, week in, week out. And so the whole idea of putting a little bit of extra newness, some zing, something you haven't tried before, throwing that in there every once in a while, we call it kind of gamifying your finances. It makes it so it's more interesting, and it makes it so that you can be far more consistent in your efforts at frugality.
I think when you gamify something, anything at all, it puts some excitement in it. It makes it a challenge. You want to do this, you want to reach this goal, you want to meet this benchmark, and when you do, you feel like you're winning.
The next one sort of harkens back to what I just alluded to a second ago, and that is just sort of the day in, day out sameness of frugality. It gets to where you're kind of discouraged, especially if you feel like it's not working, and you begin to hyper focus on everything that isn't working. And that becomes what you think about all the time. We want you to switch that mindset around and begin to consider what is working. What frugal habits are you already employing in your day-to-day life that are working to help you save money and to help you reach goals? When you focus on those things, automatically your mindset will shift, and it will allow you to think of even more ideas and ways you can save that you haven't already been implementing in your finances. It really does work.
Once you discover what is working, you can use that to give you strength to boost the areas that you need work in. So the healthy, good areas will help to strengthen those weaker areas that require a little bit more effort.
This next idea comes from a book called Atomic Habits. It's called habit stacking. I think this is a really, really interesting way to become more consistent in frugality. Let's just say that you have a habit. It's one of those things you've identified that's really working. Let's just say it's brushing your teeth twice a day. You're brushing your teeth twice a day. It means you go to the dentist every 6 months and you find you have no cavities, you feel good, your teeth feel clean. That is a frugal habit that is really working for you. But you have another habit. Let's just say that you tend to get in bed every night and you think, oh, I did not take my makeup off well enough. I didn't moisturize, and I'm feeling really frustrated with that. I would like to be able to do that. So what you're going to do is stack that new habit, that habit of thoroughly cleaning your face every night and moisturizing every night, you're going to stack that alongside of the habit that's already working, the habit of brushing your teeth. So when you brush your teeth, that is a mental and emotional cue for you that says, wait a minute, I also need to take 5 minutes. I need to clean my makeup off really well. I need to moisturize before I go to bed. When you stack those habits, you will be more likely automatically to keep that second habit because the first habit is already established.
Do you know that they use this very same principle in physical therapy? I have an arm that needs work. This is my weak arm. This is the arm that needs some work, getting some movement back in it. And they suggest doing some exercise with it, but using my left arm and doing both together, because your brain will strengthen the weakened arm because it sees the other arm working. It just kind of has to do with how our brains work.
Now, here's another habit we would love to see you stack. And that is, whenever you watch one of our videos, if you would just scroll right up to that like button for us and hit that like button, that would be super helpful for us. It helps YouTube know you'd like to see more videos like this, and therefore YouTube will show this video to even more people. And while you're up there, here is that auxiliary habit you can stack on top of that first habit. If you are not already subscribed to Under the Median, go ahead, hit that subscribe button and hit the bell notification. Thank you.
And the other thing I would like to add to those two things are, if you have some comments on the content of this video, please be sure to put those in. We love to hear from you.
Yeah, we want to know, how are you consistent in frugality on a day in, day out, week in, week out basis? Here's our fourth tip. It has to do with what we call the big three. This was a game changer for us, guys. Listen up. Y'all know, if you've watched us for any length of time, we are huge proponents of written financial goals that you track. People tend to think of financial goals as being great big things, right? These are things you're going to, figure out once a year. You're going to have a 6-month goal, maybe a 3-month goal. We do quarterly goals, but we also have monthly goals. We have what we call our big three. This is what we want you to institute, and it will be super helpful as far as consistency is concerned. 3 frugal habits. 3 habits every week that you want to focus on making sure they happen. Those are your big 3 frugal habits. Write them down and check them on Monday. Then on Wednesday, you might want to check them again. How am I doing on this? Check them on Friday. Once you are checking them throughout the week, it's only 3 things, guys. You are far more likely to complete those 3 items. And then the next week, you can switch to 3 new items. And once you have that habit installed, once again, remember, we said focus on what's working. It takes 30 days to institute a new habit and to get used to it. So those 3 things that you put on your list, let's say you keep those as your big 3 throughout the whole month. Then they are a habit, and you can add 3 brand new ones the following month.
Another item that you can add to your list to help you out with this is prioritize your spending. Now, this is
I can't do it. I can only do it with one arm. All right, ready, guys? Prioritize.
I'm going to say this is Hope's favorite word.
It is. All right.
By prioritizing, you're going to list the items that are most important to you and take care of those first. That way, you get the most important things taken care of. That's the whole idea with this. So you don't want to let those things go. Put them at the top of your list and take care of the high priority items.
So you're going to prioritize your frugal habits, and you're going to prioritize something else. You're going to prioritize your spending. Not everything can be the most important thing in your weekly, monthly, or yearly spending plan. It just can't. When you begin to prioritize, it forces you to figure out what is most important to you. Believe it or not, that helps you to be more consistent.
The next item that we want you to look at is track expenses. It's very important to know what you're doing with the money that you are spending. If you don't know where your money is going, it's not doing you much good. So by tracking expenses, you get a finite idea of exactly what you're doing with your money.
Now, let's just say that you start tracking your expenses and you realize we are spending way too much money in certain areas, or we just need a little bit more margin in this budget and I need to figure out where I can cut. I wrote an ebook, 10 Ways to Radically Reduce Your Expenses. These are all the major ways that we cut back when we were saving for great big financial goals. If you don't have a copy of it yet, I think you'll find it super helpful. I go through each of the different ways you can cut your expenses, and there are checklists for every single item that are in the ebook. Make sure that you request it. It's free. Did I mention that? It's a free ebook, guys. 10 Ways to Radically Reduce Your Expenses. There'll be a link in the description of the video.
After you've tracked your expenses, you want to make sure that you plan any splurges that you do. Now, Hope and I were just talking about this. We needed some food one particular night. I was tired. Hope isn't able to make any meals right now. She's doing much better, but she's not really able to do the cooking she was. So I just decided, let's go out to a local restaurant and buy some fun things to eat, and that will take care of the issue. We won't have to do a lot. That was kind of a splurge. And it wasn't really overly planned, but you don't want to do
it. Wasn't planned at all.
No, it wasn't. But you don't want to do that at all. You don't want to do a deal where you're tired, you're home from work, it's a Friday night, and you've worked all week, and you go, let's just go out to eat. If you do that all the time, you're going to end up spending money that you really shouldn't.
Here's the problem with just that pattern of spending, because Larry did. He looked at me. He's like, I feel like there's nothing in the house to cook, and I'm like. And he said, I think the only thing that's going to solve this is a sub sandwich. I'm pretty sure that a sub sandwich is like the solution to this problem. So we admit to you freely, we got the sub sandwiches.
We did.
But here's the thing. I reminded him, I said, this is an unplanned splurge. And that's why we tell you about it. We want to be really transparent that we did this.
Yeah.
It was completely unplanned. We splurged on it.
Yeah.
But I reminded him immediately, I said, we can't keep doing this. Mm-mm. We have to figure out some sort of sustainable way that we are able to put food on the table while I can barely move one arm. And we've got to figure out simple meals. Let's make a list tomorrow of simple meals that I know that I can walk you through the various steps to do. And our son Daniel, of course, is a great cook. And in between classes, he's chopping vegetables for us. And so the rule of thumb right now is that whatever we make, it needs to be able to go into the pressure cooker or into the crock pot. Now, we give you this example because we immediately pulled ourselves up short and said, wait a minute, we can't fall into this because otherwise it's going to be every other night that sub sandwich is going to be the solution to feeding ourselves that night. Then we immediately came up with a game plan. How are we going to solve this problem? List of simple recipes, a list of items Daniel's going to chop for us, 2 different cooking implements that basically it's dump, walk away, and then the item is done a certain number of minutes later. So if you find yourself in this, that's what you want to do. If you're like in that cycle of fast food, fast food, fast food, fast food, to break out of it, that's the way to do it. Come up with a game plan and make sure the game plan is doable, sustainable, and simple. And that will break you out of that mindset.
One thing we did to help on this game plan is when we made food for one meal, we made sure it would go for maybe 2 or 3 meals. So we had one night of cooking, and then we had some leftovers that we could pull on when I needed to get Hope lunch, get her supper for the next day. And yes, we're eating some of the same foods more often, but that's okay. This is an unusual condition that we're in. This isn't the usual.
But to be clear, we said planned splurges. There's nothing wrong. For us, a restaurant is a huge splurge. Even fast food restaurant is a huge splurge for us. You got to figure out what your splurges are and how often you are going to take part in those splurges. And make sure that the splurges are not derailing your progress toward major or even minor financial goals. Because if that's the case, then you really need to consider sort of revamping your idea of that splurge, whether you need to do it and how often you need to do it.
What would really help is have some money in your budget set aside as splurge money. So you're really operating according to your budget. You're not going over what you would normally spend.
Tip number 8, seek support and accountability. We've talked about this a lot.
Yes.
One of the reasons we were able to reach great big financial goals is we did work together as a team. And we figured out between the two of us what the goal was. And then I set my teeth and refused to budge. And Larry came along for the ride. It's true. I am very competitive. I like to win. And when a goal is put in front of me and it's like a I really want to reach that goal, I can be a little bit aggressive in wanting to meet that goal. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to meet a goal. But the whole thing is you have to have a partner alongside of you. And we do tend to balance each other out. I think that we can admit that we balance. He balances me. he reminds me it's okay for that occasional splurge, because I can tell you if it was up to me that the splurges would probably happen less often.
Well, and then her intenseness on doing really a good job at handling the budget gets me interested and want to pull alongside and be a team player with her, be on her side. So it works together. It really does.
But if you are single, or if you have a partner who is not pulling alongside of you, what you need to do is figure out what your accountability group is. What is it, the group that you can go to and say, this is my goal, can you help me reach it? It's a lot like, the minute that you do like a weight loss group, they pair you up with somebody who's been successful at losing weight, and they will help you along the way and talk you out of, eating whatever it is, that pepperoni pizza. And it's a little bit the same way as far as spending money is concerned. You need somebody you're going to call when you're standing in Nordstrom's and they're going to say, don't spend that money.
We're all stronger if we have a support team working with us, whether that's a support group or your spouse or a really good set of friends who have the same concept that you do about finances.
Tip number 9, celebrate wins. As I mentioned before, I like to be winning. We're winning. This is true. So this is a completely unplanned story. When we are really trying to reach a financial goal, sometimes, and I will say that I lead the cheer and Larry just sort of, I don't know if he watches me amusedly or he actually, sort of reluctantly joins in with me, but I'll go, we're winning, we're winning, we're winning. Yeah. We like to win, don't we?
We do.
And it is okay to celebrate your wins. In fact, we advise that you do so because it will help you as far as sustainability and continuing on the path. If you tell yourself, wait a minute, I got to the end of the week and I didn't go out for that sub sandwich.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to celebrate that win. You have to remember that wins don't have to be super big things. It can be you got to the end of the week and you felt very positive about the way you spent your money and you were really proud of the way you spent your money or didn't spend your money. That's a win. Yeah. Make sure that you are celebrating your wins, because the more you focus on the wins, the less time you have to focus on the losses.
Automatic savings is a very important concept that will help you to save money. When you get that paycheck or whatever your money is coming from, go ahead and put the very first thing, put some money aside into those savings accounts that you have. Once you take it right off at the top, you tend not to miss it so much.
Automate your paycheck going into your account. You should never get a paper paycheck. Does anybody get paper paychecks anymore? Some of our kids have, like with their first jobs, but usually even that has been like not very long before the company says we really like to automatically deposit at this. The great thing about automatically depositing your paycheck is that you don't handle the money. The minute you handle that money, there's more of a chance that you're going to say, oh, just give me 50 off the top because I need some money to spend this weekend, or give me 100. And that will keep you from doing it if it's automatically put into your savings or your checking account. We automate all of our investments every single month as well.
And speaking of savings, if you're on a tight budget, you have only a certain amount. We did a video on how to save money when you're on a limited budget. And if you'd like to see that, I have it right over there.